Hello and welcome. Today we are diving deep into the dark side of the dictionary. We're talking about wicked words, the specific, powerful vocabulary that writers use to build the villains we love to hate.
So let me ask you this. How do you describe a truly masterful villain? I mean, hordes like bad or evil, they just don't really cut it, do they? They feel a little flat. The best storytellers, well, they use precise language to make their antagonists unforgettable. And today, we're going to unlock that vocabulary for you.
All right, first up, let's talk about the masterminds. We're calling them the architects of malice. These are the schemers, the villains who are always playing the long game. Their evil isn't impulsive. It's carefully designed and built on a foundation of pure cunning.
And a perfect word for them is insidious. See, this isn't a punch in the face. It's way more subtle, like a slow-acting poison. Think about a rumor that just quietly spreads and completely destroys someone's reputation. Or maybe a dangerous idea that slowly, gradually takes root in a society. The real scary part? The damage is already done before you even realize what's happening.
Next, we have a word that is just essential for any villain's resume: malevolent. This is the pure, unfiltered desire to see others suffer. A malevolent person actively wants bad things to happen to other people. It's the total opposite of benevolent, right? It's that quiet, twisted satisfaction a villain gets when their enemies fail.
So what kind of plans do these malevolent architects cook up? Well, they create nefarious schemes. This word has a real sense of grand, dramatic wickedness to it. You wouldn't call shoplifting a candy bar nefarious. No, you save this for a massive plot to rig an election or, to take over the world. It's for evil on a truly epic scale. And who kicks off that whole nefarious plot? That would be the person who instigates it. The instigator is the ultimate troublemaker. They're the one who lights the fuse and then casually steps back to watch the big explosion. They don't just join the chaos, they're the one who whispered in everyone's ear and got it started in the first place.
Okay, our last word in this section is larceny. Now this one's a bit different. It's a specific legal term for theft, and while it might not sound as dramatic as nefarious, it's so often the starting point for a villain's whole career. From a simple act of theft to massive complex embezzlement, the act of taking what isn't yours is a fundamental building block of malice.
Now we're going to shift gears. We're moving away from the quiet planners and turning to the doers. Meet the agents of chaos. These guys aren't subtle. They are the blunt instruments of villainy, the ones who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty.
And what's a favorite pastime for an agent of chaos? To pillage. Now this is not just stealing. This is theft supercharged with violence and destruction. Just picture an army sacking a city or pirates raiding a harbor. To pillage means to take absolutely everything of value and just leave total ruin behind. It's raw, it's brutal, and it's pure chaos.
But not all chaos is physical. An acerbic wit can be just as damaging. This word describes a style of speaking that is sharp, sour, and just plain cutting. It's the villain who can dismantle a person not with a sword, but with a single, perfectly aimed, cruel comment that cuts right to the bone.
And then you've got the classic hothead. An irascible person is just constantly grumpy and so quick to anger. They're basically a walking, talking time bomb of bad temper. You always feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them because the absolute smallest thing could make them just explode.
So if irascible is the simmering rage, then Obstreperous is the full-blown public tantrum. An Obstreperous person is loudly, stubbornly, and aggressively defiant. They're just noisy, unruly, and nearly impossible to control. They don't just disagree with you. They make a loud, chaotic, and very public scene about it.
So what fuels all this anger and chaos? Well, for some, it's because they're a misanthrope. A misanthrope isn't just a grumpy person. No, they have a deep, almost philosophical hatred for the entire human race. They see the absolute worst in everyone and want absolutely nothing to do with society. It's the ultimate I hate everyone attitude.
Okay, our next group of words isn't about grand schemes or fistfights. It's about a deep, internal kind of rot. These are the vices of indulgence, words for characters who have been morally corrupted by their own insatiable appetites.
And we have to start with an insatiable appetite. This is a hunger that can literally never be filled. Whether it's an insatiable desire for power, for wealth, or for attention, it drives these characters to do terrible things. Why?
because for them, the concept of enough simply doesn't exist. It's like a black hole of pure want.
And that kind of insatiable appetite often leads to licentious behavior. This just means being completely unrestrained by any rules or morals. A licentious person follows every single impulse, no matter how harmful or decadent it is. They've basically taken society's rulebook and just thrown it into the fire.
Now let's look at two words that seem similar but have a really crucial difference. Prodigal versus profligate. Both mean being wastefully extravagant. But prodigal can be kind of neutral, right? Think of the prodigal son from the parable, who wastes his inheritance but eventually comes home. Profligate is way stronger. It doesn't just imply wastefulness, it screams moral corruption and a reckless path to total ruin.
Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from our profligate villain, we have the villain who is defined by their parsimony. This is an extreme, miserly stinginess. This isn't just being careful with your money. It's a tight-fisted, cold refusal to use resources, even when it causes suffering. It's the vice of hoarding everything to the detriment of everyone.
For our final category, we've got the villains who might not be plotting to take over the world, but are just awful to be around. These are the obstinate and the odious. We'll kick things off with Obdurate. This is stubbornness taken to a whole new level. An obdurate person is like a granite wall. You can throw logic at them, you can throw evidence, you can make emotional appeals, nothing works. They are completely, inflexibly, stubbornly set in their ways.
And then we have odious. Wow, this is a powerful word. It doesn't just mean unpleasant. It means repulsive, hateful. An odious task is one you absolutely dread doing. And an odious person is someone who inspires genuine disgust and contempt. You save this word for something or someone who is truly vile.
Okay, let's compare two more personalities that are just so annoying, but in completely different ways. An obsequious character is that slimy, bootlicking yes man, you know the type. But an officious person is the meddling busybody who's constantly offering unwanted advice and sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. So think of it this way, the villain's toady versus the neighborhood know-it-all.
Finally, we have a very different kind of antagonist, the Philistine. Now, they're not a villain in the capes and cowls sense. A Philistine is someone who is hostile or just totally indifferent to art, to culture, to new ideas. Their crime is a kind of willful ignorance, a rejection of beauty and thought. You could almost call it a villainy of the soul.
And there you have it, a brand new arsenal of wicked words. We've covered the plotting architects of malice, the destructive agents of chaos, the morally corrupt vices of indulgence, and the just plain infuriating obstinate and odious. So the question is, now that you can name it, where will you start to see it?